Tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio, huge cabal plans that the 144K must alter and support the efforts, both physical and non-physical, off-world and on-world, on the surface and under the ground, to shift the timelines, to have the light in charge. What's October really going to look like, and what's it going to bring, and how do we prepare ourselves, and why this full moon mass meditation brings in the Chiron Wounded Healer wild card and the opportunity that presents. Let's play our cards smart, folks. This is Ground Crew Command Radio. You're listening to The Unknown Light Warrior. And we're back. You're listening to Ground Crew Command Radio. This is your loving servant, the Unknown Light Warrior. Now, we're entering that last and final phase where we really need and must have and maintain presence of mind. Of course, presence of heart as well. But it doesn't mean forget the mind. Forget sense and common sense. The proverbial climax, well, here it is. Let's get through it. And I really meant it when I said playing our cards smart. Because, again, the Chiron, the Wounded Healer, as it applies to this coming full moon, less than 48 hours from now, from this live broadcast, it does present the opportunity to smartly, expertly shift the timelines just right. It could be, I mean, it's affecting all of us, the Chiron factor. It is affecting all of us. I was completely open and honest about that in my previous email for today's show. And again, anything not sorted within you or within your life, it'll just explode louder and louder until you figure out a way to sort it, resolve it. Of course, as I've said a million times before in the past, go to the teams or your guides first and clear the energies first. Otherwise, forget about any practical 3D action. Always remember that. So, again, it's the proverbial climax, barely the beginning of it. And just to be clear, once the US, is liberated, because that's going to be the focal point this October and November, than the nuclear scare, probably Ukraine being the excuse. Once America is freed, the rest of the world will follow. If America does not succeed in liberating itself, it's going to be an unpleasant knockout, drag-out kind of situation well into 2023. Translation, screw everything and make sure you're absolutely there in less than 48 hours from now for the 144K mass meditation. I promise I will renew my efforts to make it as short as possible. But, we do what we're told to do. Those critical interventions of a kind that certainly very few, if anyone, is making on the non-physical. Now, so what I'm going to do first is to help you tune in, okay? Really tune in to this coming full moon mass meditation. As always, as with every full moon, especially these days, they'll be ritualizing their asses off because they have to. They're in a big enough trouble already. But clearly, they're trying to make it as unpleasant and hard for us and all of humanity as possible. Of course, as always, in true 144K style, we flip the middle finger at them. And, you know, the 144K just don't back down from the fight. Energetic, spiritual, and if it ever came to it, physical. But the white hats seem to have that fairly well wrapped up. But again, always keep in mind, within the US, there will be a certain amount of actual military engagements mostly in the major cities, definitely in the blue coastal cities for sure. It'll be utter mayhem and chaos that'll make the LA riots look pretty tame. And of course, as you know, as a 144K member, you'll know there's various different timelines for such LA riot type situations. Okay, there's the short and sweet and minimal, or the knockout drag out that lasts for well over a week. You know, so make your mind up, make your choice, and be there. This October 9th, 2022, where the real shifting of timelines continues, and this shifting of timelines just get, you know, the need for them, the timeliness of them, get more and more critical as we go head first into the climax. As I said, we're going to help to tune into the certain kind of mystery and magic of this full moon because it's conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer. Chiron apparently situated in Sagittarius, my personal star, my star sign. So what magic, what mystery is there to reveal and uncover during this full moon conjunct with Chiron meditation? That'll enable us at kind of like the last minute to turn everything around. And believe me, there's always, you know, the analogy of a plane taking off and heading across an ocean to its destination. 97% of the time, it's actually off course, and it makes, you know, consistent course corrections all along the way, throughout almost the entire flight. So as of now, we're still off course. Okay, we're still not on the right timeline where the event happens. Okay, so I can understand people have been really sold, I guess, and so have I to a degree. I've really sold that the Galactics, the RM, the Agathans, the White Hats have it under control. Yes and no. And what I mean by that is, yes, at the end of the day, no, on the timeline that we're on right now. Okay? It's just not there yet. It just hasn't manifested that way yet. On this timeline, it's still a neck and neck sort of tussle or arm wrestle, or pick your analogy, pick your metaphor. Okay, and we keep on participating. Okay, until it is actually done until the done part, the completion part, is actually manifested. So it's one of those ironic or seeming contradictory things. But it's not once you think in terms of timelines. And here at 144K, we almost have a culture about thinking in terms of timelines. So, again, the main focus for now is not on the news. It's on this 144K mass meditation, full moon conjunct with Chiron, and let's help you begin to tune into that, okay, by listening to this recorded interview. Okay, it's just over half an hour long with Caroline over in Israel. And together we discussed the ins and outs of what may be in store for us on this full moon. Okay, what are the dark ones, physical and non-physical, are going to try to take advantage of because of the fact that the moon will be conjunct Chiron? Okay. What opportunity does it present for us? This will help you tune into all of that. And on the other side of this short interview, yes, I will get into the massive false flag the cabal will desperately try to carry out. What the ins and outs of that, what will that look like? Will the cabal actually arrest Trump? What will that look like? Why would the White Hats allow that? What really happened in China? What side is the military on over there? And of course, the so-called 10 days of darkness, what will that actually consist of? Why do the White Hats welcome the cabal's communication shutdown, which could be as long as 10 days? And of course, I'm going to finish off with what should your only real concern be, okay? And this really is, the news is completely worthless and meaningless compared to this critical and only concern you should have right now. All right? That can shift everything. So let's focus, put our hearts and minds and tune in intuitively into the energies as part of your preparation for this Chiron, I would say Chiron-dominated full moon, or so it seems, and, intuit, for lack of a better term. All right, so you can start to build up the energies within you and really be a mover and shaker on that critical crunch time, less than 48 hours away. And I'll be right back on the other side of this short interview. Enjoy. Okay, and here we are. We have Caroline Furman over in Israel joining us for this very timely interview, given that this full moon is going to be conjunct with Chiron. And I've only just done a bit of reading. I only knew that almost nothing really. I only knew that Chiron was the wounded healer, and that's as far as it went. And then I just did a bit of reading preparation for this interview, and I was quite surprised how much of Chiron mirrored me, correlated with me, which was kind of funny, kind of surprising and shocking. And I'll get into that when I read out some interesting but short details about Chiron from everybody. But first, Caroline, thank you for taking the time to be on Ground Crew Command Radio over there in Israel. And just go ahead and say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Greetings.
Hey, fantastic. Now, first of all, I'm curious, how long have you been a 144K member for?
I think the first time I was exposed to it was about 2017.
Oh, almost from the beginning. The beginning.
I don't even know how. I don't remember that. It just showed up.
Well, there you go. Nothing new there, right? Nothing surprising for any of us. It just shows up, the right things at the right time. Okay. Now you've written a bit and researched a bit about the wounded healer, a journey of discovery and recovery, coming home to yourself. It's all about star family, earth family, angels, ascended masters, fairies, and elementals. And one thing you hold precious, what we all hold precious to you, is the spark, no matter how dimly lit, almost extinguished, but it's there. No words can explain that, knowing that something else, something more is burning inside. And of course, here at the 144K, we're all about really making that dim light, really switching it back on and making it extremely bright, extremely overwhelming, that dissolves everything not aligned to the light, that doesn't respect and honor free will, for unconditional freedom, and a return to our natural state of bliss, where love as that background force is what's running the show. Unlike the realm that technically we've left as of December 21st, 2021, but we're still shedding a lot of stuff. So tell the audience just a 1 or 2 minute nutshell understanding of who you are and what you're about and what you do.
Well, first of all, I want to say something. I'll do that, but something that you said about, spreading the light. More recently, my unseen friends were talking about what we need now in the world is balance. I mean, it might not resonate with everyone. Of course, everyone takes just only what resonates with you, and the rest you can just leave it. But we are at a point where that's how it was explained to me. When we shine light on one spot, then we have darkness, more darkness coming at another spot. So what we actually need now is balance, because we are in this duality and we will stay in this duality because this is this world and we need it. But now it's more the time of balance, because there's enough light on the planet and we need to share the balance and send balance to the world.
I see.
So that the darkness won't start lifting its head at the other spots.
I see. So you're saying balance is one of the keys to bringing stability, but also resolving the issue of darkness simply appearing somewhere else.
Yes. Yes.
Now, are you referring to a balance between dark and light, or balance between the divine polarities such as feminine and masculine and other divine polarities such as that?
I believe it applies to all. I believe it applies to everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And tell us about your relationship with your non-physical guides. How much, do you see them? Do you hear them? Or is it more of a claircognizant reception of their communication? Describe the nature of your relationship with them, and if you can tell us who they are as well, if they let you do that.
Yes, well, there are many actually. There are the unseen friends and the angels, and I am claircognizant. I just have a knowing. I just get the knowing, and everyone here, we can't explain it where it comes. We just have it and it's there, and nothing can move it away until we act on it.
Yeah.
And I work with many unseen friends that others channel as well. I am part of the Stargate community. I'm part of also working with Lazar's friends, and there are many others.
Okay. Tell us about your journey as a healer.
Actually, it started when I was very little, and I had no understanding of it. When someone had a headache, and I was a child, and I would come and put my hand on them, and then the headache was gone. Now, for others, it was just a joke. Oh, I don't feel it anymore. But over the years, I had the knowing. And of course, synchronicity is a movie here, something's there, and it's bubbling inside, even if you can't explain it to anyone. It's just inside of you. And when we grow up and we start to open up to our path, and it's, of course, baby steps, but it's always there. There's always there a knowing. There's a knowing. This is not how I heal the body and the person and the emotions, what we see. There's something else. And that knowing is in the back of the mind somehow. And we know. We simply know. Like if you go to a doctor, you tell them what to give to you because you know. You don't know where you know it from, but you know.
That's the nature of claircognizance.
Yes, and when the time came, because I believe we have these codes in us, yes, that certain points in our life, junctions or crossroads, we are being activated to awaken something more in us. And when that time came and my unseen friends came into my life, like they say, we found you, because our higher self is asking them to find us so they can be with us. Yeah. And at that point, I had a dream. I had a very life-changing dream that waking up in the morning, it was just there. I know I'm a healer. Even if nobody knows what it means, I know I'm a healer. I know I can put my hand on someone and there will be change there.
I see.
There will be an alignment there.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So it's mainly through your hands, placing your physical hands on people?
Not necessarily. This is how it starts, because we are physical, so we grasp with the body. This is how we start. But then when we grow and we evolve, we understand it doesn't have to be with our physical body. It just can be with our heart and with our focus.
So you do remote work as well? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yes. Mainly it's remote work. Because this is what we did all these years with our unseen friends. And healing to hotspots and to the world, and this is the main work.
I see. Okay. Now, tell us, can you share with us what star system do you identify with?
I am originally from Sirius.
Oh.
This is my stellar origin. Yeah, I moved a lot. I'm one of the wanderers. I wander from one place to another and found myself here. But the origin is Sirius.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. Well, speaking of healing, and wounded Italy for that matter. Let me just share with everyone some rather interesting details that even surprised me regarding Chiron. It's just 2 short paragraphs. So everyone, again, as part of our preparation for another critical intervention by the 144K on this full moon, 4 p.m. Eastern this Sunday. So this is important preparation, folks. So pay close attention to this because it's a big deal, because this is coming up on Sunday. Now, Chiron was eldest, there we go. Chiron was the eldest and wisest of the centaurs, a Thessalian tribe of half-horse men. Chiron was an immortal son of the Titan Kronos and a half-brother of Zeus. He was born half-horse because Kronos transformed himself into a horse at the moment of conception to avoid detection by his wife, Rhea. Chiron was a renowned teacher who mentored many of the greatest heroes of myth, including the Jason and the Argonauts and Peleus, the physician Asclepios, and Achilles of Troy. Chiron, the old centaur, was accidentally wounded by Heracles when the hero was battling other members of the tribe. The wound, poisoned with hydra venom, was incurable, and suffering unbearable pain, Chiron voluntarily relinquished his immortality. Zeus then placed him amongst the stars as the constellation Sagittarius. Chiron's name was derived from the Greek word for hand and meant something like skilled with the hands. In myth, it was also closely associated with the words chirurgos, or surgeon. So some of that took me by surprise. First of all, he was the eldest and wisest of the centaurs, okay, of half horse, half men. I didn't know that. Okay. Chiron was an immortal son of Titan, Kronos, of the Titan, Kronos, and half-brother of Zeus. First of all, I didn't know he was such a big being. And Kronos has always been, seen upon or perhaps assumed to be dark. Kronos being the Greek word for time. And, so we're going to get into that. Well, let's get into what now. You got, it's funny, the Navy whistleblower who was on Journey to Truth podcast 4 or 5 times now this past year, he said that 90% of so-called myth or mythology is true, plus or minus minor details. And a long time ago, many years ago, Tolek, many of you will know him, he revealed through his Andromedan sources that the Greek gods and the Titans were simply off-worlders that arrived here more recently, in predominantly in ancient Greece. Well, this is more like before antiquity. Or they were old Atlanteans that were ETs from that era, and they were at war with each other, the Greek gods and the Titans. So he was the immortal son of Kronos and half-brother of Zeus. That's, so it's right up there. I didn't know he was such a big being. He was born half-horse because Kronos transformed himself into a horse at the moment of conception. to avoid detection by his wife, Rhea. Okay, so I'm not an expert on Greek so-called mythology, but what do you know so far about Kronos, in particular, being the father of Chiron, if anything?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say about mythology, myths and legends is actually how the divine speaks to us. They speak to us through mythology and through the legends that we know. You know, we have also Merlin and Arthur legends. This is the word of the divine. And we just need to tap into it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Now Chiron.
Kronos, I don't know much about it, but he was the father of Chiron, and he was there for him. That's what I know. But Chiron is talking about the mythological teacher and healer, which many of us are. And the journey that we did through lifetimes of our wounds, of our betrayals, all the Christ, it's all connected. It is all connected.
Well, one thing that it looks like there was interference. Interference meaning dark intervention, because Chiron was quote unquote accidentally wounded by Heracles when he was battling other members of the tribe, other centaurs, I guess, and he accidentally wounded him. As we all know, there's no such thing as accidents. I believe Chiron was, and we can all relate to this, Chiron was targeted by either the Archons or the Chimera themselves. And partly because he ended up being a great renowned teacher to many of the greatest heroes of Greek mythology and legends, including Jason and the Argonauts. He served some sort of important mission. And Peleus, a physician, Asclepios, and Achilles of Troy, a great warrior. So he was supporting all of them, mentoring them. And obviously, Darkness didn't want that to happen, didn't want Chiron to empower those individuals to serve out their missions. And what appears to be the theme here and the crux of the matter is suffering, constant and perpetual suffering, and a perception, I'm going to call it a perception and belief of not being able to heal, or the healer and mentor not being able to heal him or herself. They can heal others, but can't heal himself. And that the wounded healer, perhaps certain things, are incurable. Okay. The belief may be an archetypal block that X, Y, Z, or certain things are incurable. So these are interesting archetypes. And archetypes, as many of you know, among other things, they're also basic concepts that, in terms of negative ones, are extremely rigid, seemingly immovable. Okay. So far we can derive from this curing the incurable and healing the healer who hasn't been healed yet. And a lot of us healers, as good as many of us are, still have those personal, shall we say, afflictions that still plague us.
We're not ones without problems, but we do have solutions.
Agreed. Yes, and that's what the 144K is all about, why we've come together. So that's what seems to be drawn from all of this.
I just wanted to add also about the archetypes. Archetypes are actually the tools that the divine uses for creation.
Okay.
These are the tools that the divine uses to create worlds.
Yes, true. That is part of their use. Now, first of all, I want your take on what you see as the solutions to we can tap into regarding what seems to be an archetypal and collective block of healing the healing the healer itself, healing the wounded healer, and seemingly the incurable.
Well, when I look at the myth of Chiron, I see the cure. I see the healing, because Chiron eventually is a star on its own. And so, which means we need to lift perception to get to our cure. He's in a different perception now.
Mm-hmm.
So the suffering is not there anymore.
Okay.
He's lifted. The perspective.
He was, as it suggests, ascended, but some people may say, well, really, he simply didn't reincarnate. He chose not to reincarnate. Maybe he knew he would just have similar experiences again because of karmic loops. We all know what that's like. So are we dealing with an ascended being that did heal himself, and we need to bring that to this world now through the constellation of Sagittarius, which is my star sign, interestingly enough. There could be one of two things. Either he's healed, ascended, and needs to be brought in and invited to cure the so-called incurable throughout the collective and Gaia, or, as is often the case with soul fragment retrieval, he's still stuck there in that suffering way back in that era here on the physical plane, and that we need to heal him, retrieve him, to then lift that whole archetype of curing the incurable from the collective to free humanity. So I see one of two possibilities there. What do you see?
Well, I see what is mostly now needs to be healed in the collective is the emotional body. I see the emotional body of humanity very sick at this moment. And this is where I feel mostly the focus needs to go.
I see. Now, how can it be healed in your understanding?
In my understanding, it's opening for people. Well, when I am working on collective healing, yes, so I imagine, I vision, and I get the vision and I imagine. And I see people having the space, allowing themselves to really begin to feel, because when a person is numb, they are not growing. They cannot grow when they are numb.
And the
And when we
sensitivities
are
that
not,
come off.
and when we are not growing, we are not even standing still. We are going backwards.
Yeah, you're either going forwards or going backwards. There's no in between.
So it's providing the space for all humanity to start feel themselves. And that's why all these things that are happening actually activating the emotional body. All the rage and the anger and fear. And so first always comes the dark. The dark will always come first, because negative emotions are lighter and the positive emotions are more dense, actually. Then they stay in the barrel down beneath. So first,
they're lower. They're more deeper.
Yeah, more deeper. So first, the darker emotions, the negative, are coming out. And we see it and we feel it everywhere. And I am encouraging people to feel their anger and to feel that, because there's so much in the spiritual communities of lifting yourself and being happy and being, but it's not really what's gonna put us in a total alignment.
Yeah, you have to validate that they're there. You have to shine the light of your consciousness that they're there.
And to feel it.
And shine light literally to help clear it and process them, to transmute.
And to allow yourself to be there and feel that anger, be with it, sit with it, because everything has a message. Everything has a message. And when I'm aware of the message and I'm feeling it, this is when it dissipates. This is when I can really release the energy. Even if I feel the anger, the energy is not the same anymore. It's not having that impact.
Yeah.
That negative impact on me, on my environment.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't validate it.
And certainly not to judge. Certainly not to judge myself when I feel I'm so pissed, I'm so angry, and I see so many, we need to lift, but it's not, this is not how we ascend. We ascend by being true with our feelings. First, allow ourselves to feel, and then value, no matter what, value our feelings and our capacity to feel. And then we are sitting with it. We're sitting with it. And not looking where to hide ourselves or to hide the emotions.
I see. Okay. Well, I think we can agree. And, I'm going to finish off with, like a conclusion for all of us to move forward with a very clear, clarified and galvanized understanding and focus on this coming full moon mass meditation that the 144K will be doing on October the 10th, 2022. I beg your pardon, October the 9th. It's not the first time I've gotten dates wrong. But before we do that, I just want everyone, want you to give everyone the name of your book and what they can expect to learn from it, as well as how to contact you.
The name of the book is The Wounded Healer, The Journey of Discovery and Recovery, Coming Home to Yourself. And the name is Carolina Fuhrman. And Caroline is also good, because my name has so many versions, and all good.
Carolina sounds nicer, more European.
And contact me by mail. I'm still in the simple ways of connecting. And that is Carolyn, CAROLIN, H5, H stands for healing, so it's Carolyn H5 at hotmail.com.
Wonderful. Yeah, we certainly won't be using Facebook anytime soon, that's for sure. And go ahead. You got one more thing to say?
Yeah, I just lost the thread.
What can I learn to expect from your book?
Oh, well, the book, it was written because it was something that's bubbling in me that had to come out. And I actually was encouraged to share with myself first. So the book is an encouragement book of keep going. You know, yeah, Chiron was wounded, but he kept going. And even when he was wounded and suffering, then he actually was teaching. This is when he was teaching and delivering all that he had. And we keep going no matter how we are wounded. We don't let it put us down, because there will be a moment when we will pass through this wound, and it will no longer be an obstacle or a limitation. So I believe this is mostly what I wanted. Besides, also, I wanted the word out, so, you know, the resonance of, a new world is coming. No, not the order or whatever. The luminous new world is coming, and it's already here. We see it, and we need to focus and look for it, actually, to pull the thread, because the fabric is already here. The fabric is here. We just need to find the thread and keep pulling it to us until the whole fabric of this luminous new world will appear completely. We are at the destruction phase. And this is also what I wanted people to realize. It's not the Armageddon. We are at the destruction phase. All the old world and all the old systems are crumbling, which actually where suffering is coming from. It's coming from the system. So I believe we are entering a new world where pain will be there, because pain is a teacher also. But suffering, I believe there will be no suffering. At some point, we will evolve to this point. Suffering won't be existing. There's no need for suffering. It's coming from institutions. It's coming from systems. The suffering of humanity.
Yeah, they're the ones causing the suffering.
Yeah.
Even when they weren't collapsing.
And they are. They are. We see it. We see it, and we have few more years for the total destruction. I mean, it will take another 100 years for the whole shift to complete. But we don't have that long until all this crumbles completely.
Yes. And certainly a parallel alternative world with its own healing and medical technologies, its own financial system, being the quantum financial system, its own, energy source, way of existence, its own internet, that's for sure. And that'll really start to come up as of, it seems, this November and onward. And we'll just continue to roll out in the new year and gradually but quickly replace the old systems faster and faster.
And healing magic. This is what I wanted to bring. Healing magic is here. And we are
Yes.
entering this era of healing magic. And it's just healing, you don't need more than 50 seconds. 30 seconds healing can happen.
Yep.
That's magic.
That's true. I prefer to call it that's energy. And now return to mastering energy again. There's amazing and profound physical genes that do amazing and profound things, and we're all about reactivating them. So it's no longer we're no longer looking at some, long spoken of lofty ideal. We're now looking at, technical, practical, physical brass tacks on actualizing it down to the physical level. And that's what we're all about as Starseeds, certainly as 144K members, because many 144K members are healers and practitioners themselves, or non-professional, talented psychics and intuitive in some way to different degrees. They just don't do it as a living. So it's going to be interesting, this coming mass meditation, because I can see the two main themes will be ending perpetual suffering and removing, transmuting the wounded healer, which is kind of like the wounded hero. They're closely related.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's also the archetype of the wounded hero, especially as it relates to the divine masculine collective. And because we're conjunct with Chiron, the wounded healer, this full moon, it does seem to present an opportunity to finally address these, because archetypes, specifically archetypal blocks, they do serve or have the effect as kind of like a curse or a magic spell, where you can't, unglue yourself from whatever it is that the curse and spell was made upon or about. And you need to remove that, and you remove it within the collective. So with that said, I'll let you have the closing words on what I just said. If you have anything to say about it, that is.
I want to first say for people to talk to themselves. Talk to themselves.
The cells, not themselves.
The body, not
the
themselves.
Cells of the body.
Cells of the body. Talk
Gotcha.
to the cells of the body. Talk to them. And talk to them to bring balance and harmony. And practicing loving the body just by saying, I love you. I love you. It's not that easy. Sometimes it's not easy to say it.
Yeah.
Say it to the body. Continue saying it to the body. And talk to yourself, because the cells are listening.
Yeah.
Our cells listening all the time.
I see. Yeah, that's I've done something similar many years ago, where in one way or another you bring something forward or up to get it healed. Otherwise, it won't get healed. And although I prefer to be up with the teams, so that I'm not crying for a whole hour, I'm just crying for maybe 5 minutes and transmute the effort, whatever the issue is. So, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much, Carolina.
Thank
It was
you.
really, really nice meeting you. And you're one of many great examples of a 144K member. And, you know, I'm sure we're all waving over there to you in Israel. And, yeah, we'll hopefully talk soon. And let's see where the light needs to be shined in this critical 144K intervention, as is often the case on the full moon that, again, conjuncts Chiron, the wounded healer. So it's going to be interesting what'll happen.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
It certainly seems to present an opportunity, that's for sure.
Very exciting.
Yeah. 30 seconds.
Such an exciting time. So exciting.
Yeah. Healer, heal thyself. There's no two ways about it. And, okay, so I'll close this interview now. And this is the Unknown Light Warrior. You're listening to Ground Crew Command Radio. Let's make it happen on this full moon, conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer. Let's take charge, everybody. Okay, well, I hope you got something else out or more out of what you may have known about Chiron, the wounded healer, already from my and Caroline's intuitive take on that. And, you know, like I said, it does beg the question, you know, is the 144K here to end the archetype of the wounded healer for all of us and the collective? Is the 144K here in less than 48 hours here to finally remove and end the archetype of perpetual pain or the incurable pain or wounding? Okay. You know, because there's all sorts of archetypes like that implanted, you know, events engineered by the non-physicals and to implant and anchor such concepts, not just energies, but concepts onto the collective. So let's see what's in store for us this Sunday. Okay, as long as we do our duty, that's all we can do. You know, and you know, you have your guides, we will have our connections. Let's see what we can bring to the table on this crucial topic. And of course, you know, you can't bring anything to the table if, you know, you don't participate in this coming full moon mass meditation. So let's now quickly get into the Chiron wounded healer sort of theme. A lot of wounding that has been forced up this past 7 days in particular, okay, where the unresolved, if it hasn't been resolved, it really is loud now. And I think, you know, it isn't just because of the incoming light that's forcing it all up and as a result of, you know, continuous ascension in frequencies. But it's also happening this way because we need to prepare. Okay, we need to prepare for October and November in particular. We need to be ready for it, and we need to clear such unresolved, such baggage to be ready. Otherwise, you won't be ready, which means you will be out of the picture. You know, those old interferences and distractions will come up in the last hour, minute, or 24 hours before any one of the next few mass meditations. You know, if things get harder, you know, the resistance gets harder if, you know, you don't clear things that are finally up for clearing. So let me start off with KD. Okay, we're just going to read out the initials for privacy, anonymity. Okay, I have had something going on for years. Feels like torture, which has been getting more and more intense lately. Yeah, true, it would be. I am so uncomfortable I can hardly stand to be in my skin. It feels like multiples of fingernails on a blackboard sort of feeling. Every day, multiple times daily, there have been layers of implants in organs, pain-causing grids, webs, etc. I request removal, but it seems like a non-stop assault. Someone suggested that this feeling of suffering, of torture, comes from some kind of agreement with the Catholic Church. Well, possible. No release so far, or maybe it was due to the subquantum anomaly energy. Okay, we'll get into that. Do you have any pointers that may help with this? I can barely sleep. My muscles are very tight. I am in constant pain, high cortisol levels due to the stress. It feels like torture, and that's from KD. All right. I mean, it could be implants. It's possible. Unlikely, however, because otherwise we'd all be going through it. Well, the majority of us would be going through something like this. Implants certainly don't help in such matters. What it is a load of entities around a given trauma. Okay, and there may be a portal within that infection of stuff coming up. And, you know, in terms of fingernails on the blackboard kind of thing, our electromagnetic system, our electromagnetic bodies is going through that all the time, just from the electrical circuitry in our houses. Okay, that's why I spent the money. That was difficult, but we spent the money on green wave filters, they're called, which shuts down and filters out the absolute insane amounts of electromagnetic noise coming through just from the walls of your house through the electrical system. And that wouldn't be helping you, but that's not the cause, right? Because most of us are still going through that, although not us these days. Muscles tight. All right, so basically something major is seriously up. Now, it could be from this lifetime. And the reason why I say that is because you're having all these real physical symptoms. If it's from a past life, it would typically it's only an emotional, mental, or physical fatigue kind of upheaval and symptoms. All right. So what you'll want to do is some form of torture, either in this lifetime or a past lifetime, has come up, and there's always a lot of entities around that. So go to the teams, put yourself in a quarantine sphere, and start, quote unquote, watching. Start pulling out entities and turn them into white light. Okay, that's one technique. The other technique is just zoom in a little bit into your body, watch it, see it holographically, and you'll start seeing entities here and there. Okay, that's another way to do it. Pick the technique that comes to you, as long as you transmute them. All right. Now, I know, well, no, it's not easy for me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I've been there. What I mean by that is, and this will upset a lot of people, but you're hearing it from someone who was screaming at the top of their lungs for help and seemingly didn't get it. Okay. The old biblical saying, God will not do for you what you can do for yourself. Okay. And there's a reason for that, but I'm not going to get into that while you're still in this pain. So go to the teams, see your body holographically in the white background and the team surrounding the quarantine sphere. They will help if you need it, but you need to sort of lead the charge, so to speak, and just start pulling one out after the other. All right. Whole body may be infected with just physical stuff like vaccine shedding, graphene oxide from the chemtrails. They can attack the entire nervous system. Focus if it's that, because that would exacerbate it. Probably not the cause, all right, because we all have that to one degree, but it would exacerbate that. So really light up your lights and demolecularize them, change their molecular structure. And when you've done that for a good 20 minutes, all right, then dive in, use the soul fragment retrieval process, dive in, and, ask the teams, what's the core cause of what I'm feeling, okay? And, of course, show them what you're feeling, what you're going through once you're up there, before you do anything that I just advise you to do, before you start pulling out entities. So the more extreme a trauma is, whether it's this lifetime or another one, the more entities and the bigger the entities. All right. Generally speaking, there's not exactly too many absolutes here. Your higher self is asking you to prove your warrior mettle here. Okay. And believe me, more than one occasion, my higher self has really thrown me into, more like allowed darkness to throw me into the deep end where I had to sink or swim. And that's actually how I discovered soul fragment retrieval, by the way. And I got through it, a lot more than one occasion. So, you're hearing it from someone who's been there. All right. If I hadn't been there, to such an extreme thing with seemingly no way out, and you're all by yourself, and the walls are closing in, and yada yada, it would be insulting to you when you ought to be upset. But I've been there, and take your time showing them all of this, what you're going through. And if you have trouble visualizing, have them somewhere in the background of your consciousness while you're showing them this. All right. And be kind of methodical with that part. Don't rush that one. Really show them the energy of what you're experiencing, not just, the physical pain. But basically, there's serious amount of stuff coming out of your system, or trying to, but your physical body is having trouble coping with so much stuff coming out. Okay, it's forcing out a lot of physical toxins as well. Now, on many occasions, there's also the other factor that if it is an actual torture in past life or this life, sometimes it's torture via an injection that attacks your entire nervous system. And you really want to get out of your skin. All right. Retrieve that soul fragment. Because worst case scenario, even if it doesn't clear the problem overnight or straight away, straight after the session, it'll put you on the timeline where you're able to find the 3D therapeutic solution. Okay, that's the critical distinction that everyone needs to be aware of. Even if it doesn't clear it out right straight after the session. All right, let me move on to SP, initials SP. It takes me a lot of energy to stay grounded in the moment. It's hard to explain, but it feels like it's really windy and I'm trying to hold steady in the storm. It's the people around me, those closest to me, that are totally struggling. That's the energy suck for me. Okay. That could be a soul fragment issue as well. So I would go there first. Again, take it up to the teams. Take your time showing them what you're experiencing them, and again, show the energy of it, which is more than just the emotion that you're going through. Because that looks like a past life trauma as well, where, how can I put it? You may have been on a ship getting tossed around and not being able to stand up straight. Okay. Or in a situation where you kept on getting knocked out by a horseman, and it was windy and confusing, and you couldn't find, the people around you of your village were totally suffering as well. You know, it doesn't, you know, what you're going through now, sometimes it mimics the nature of that trauma, wounding, or negative event from this or past life. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So just keep that in mind. And then shore up your outer auric membrane. Make sure that's sealed. And then just do that exercise visualization where a golden rope comes out from the core of Gaia, goes all the way up to the surface, through the ground, between your legs, and sort of wraps itself around your lower spine, or coccyx bone, I think it's called, or tailbone, and then give it a couple of tugs. You know, finish off with that. All right. Next is TK, the initials TK. Really feeling depressed by the chemtrails yeah. Still in the sky, combined with 5G. How can you tell the difference between positive and negative chemtrails in the sky? What can be done about this so we don't feel so helpless in the face of it? Yeah, understandable. Totally empathize with that. All right. First of all, with the 5G, make sure you invest the money in something like a Wi-Fi guard that's sold at smartmeterguard.com. Make sure, you know, Q-Wave, that's QUwave.com. They've released a couple of more recent things. There's other companies. You know, go to bravesearch.com and find the things that protects you against 5G. Okay. Take practical action if you haven't already. Now, the difference between positive and negative chemtrails in the sky. All right, well, we all know what the negative chemtrails look like. These long, ugly slug trails, basically. And they really pollute. Positive chemtrails, they're much more shorter. They tend to be a more glassy, cleaner, smoother kind of a visual texture to it. And they disappear within 20 minutes or so. You know, they don't hold and they spread pretty quickly. And they tend to be shorter, more translucent, glassier. Okay. But you got to sort of catch it because they disappear in like 20 minutes. So you really got to catch them. So that's the difference there. So, yeah, regarding the 5G, that's what you can do. Okay. To not be so helpless in the face of it. The chemtrails, Cobra did say that they will stop completely at the time of the event. In most parts of the world, or seemingly every part of the world, they've dropped by a good 80% since mid-2019. I certainly remember how absolutely crazy they were before then, or up until that point. And the trick is to do, apart from your consistent weekly internal work, And keeping your chakras optimized and clear and so forth. You need to make sure you've got the work-life balance happening. Okay, make sure the balance is there. Make sure you have whatever activity, whether it's hiking, swimming at a local spa, watching a movie. Make sure you have those scheduled in to your week. Okay, at least on the weekend, to bring about that balance. Okay, because it's unlikely you'll be doing that during the 10 days of darkness. So, and invest if required to deal with the 5G. All right, TK. Moving on to JH. Okay, let me see if I've missed something here. Bear with me, everybody. Okay, just thought I actually double read something anyway. JH, I've been experiencing energetic attacks and remote irradiation. Yep, I know how you feel. Here in Holland and suffering the effects of vaccine shedding. Yep, that sucks as well. I'm totally flawed in the physical and can hardly walk. My partner has to do the shopping. These are really hard times, and the weaponized EMF radiation isn't helping either. What do you both do to counteract it all? Okay, so I'll start off with the basics and then move on from there. So smartmeterguard.com. Get the Wi-Fi guard and the smart meter guard. I don't want to assume that you have that covered. I want to make sure you have that covered. Invest the money. Now, so what I do to get the physical toxins, namely graphene oxide, out of me, because they're spraying it through the chems, is I do something called a magnetic clay bath about once every 2 weeks. Well, it's been more like once a month recently. Magnetic clay bath. I may provide that link. You can do a search for it, okay, where you mix 4 cups of this special clay into a blender that's filled 3/4 with water. You blend it, and then you throw it in a bathtub and you fill it up and you lie in there for, I'd recommend 45 minutes. I say 30 minutes, I reckon 45 minutes. And every time I would do that, there was this kind of like black sand, basically, or dark grey sand would come out, would be sitting at the bottom. I let it drain out, and there it is sitting there. And then I spray with a hand-held shower spigot on the walls, and it tends to go in the middle of the bathtub. And then from one end of the wall of the bathtub, I spray it on the wall so we can move the lighter clay. The current of water moves the lighter clay off into the drain hole, and there sits the heavier metallic graphene oxide and other such things. So magnetic clay bath therapy, don't be surprised if Google hides it and you have to go onto the second page. That's why I use bravesearch.com. DuckDuckGo is compromised as well. Invest in that. And try to do movement. Okay? Go for walks. Resistance training, in other words, bodybuilding, is actually the best in terms of health, but actually reverses the aging of your limbs, your bones and tissue. Good old bodybuilding. Try to do that if you can. Okay? Otherwise, do a light version of it, whatever. Get into movement. Movement really goes a long way to deal with the vaccine shedding and the chemtrails. You got to get moving again. Now, let me see here. remote irradiation, that's something that I can't really speak to right now. Okay. You'll find out soon enough why. Okay. Now, experiencing energetic attacks, they have stepped up. I'll just say participate in the next 144K meditation. Okay. One thing you can do is build a sphere of protection around your house and property. Then I've got one made out of pentagrams. All right. And you have to shore it up each morning. Okay. Another thing you can do, and I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here because it's only barely just like it's in a pilot stage here, barely got released. My good friend Katharina, medicahealth.com, has recently released something called an office gem. Okay. It just plugs into the wall and provides a very significant, not far from complete energetic protection. Okay. And I'm mentioning that reluctantly because it costs, I don't know if it's $1,000 or $1,500. Okay. Okay. Apparently it's even more than that. Okay. So we're still experimenting on that, and that's still in development. All right, moving on to AE. Bear with me here. I've scrambled my notes. Okay, correction. I misheard from a couple of weeks ago. We have it hasn't been officially released. It's still being demoed. In other words, tested. The test results so far are quite positive, and it's still being developed. In other words, improved. Okay, still at the very early stages. And the good news is, it's more like $600, not $1,000 or $1,500, when it'll be officially released. Okay. So far, it's working, I can say. So stay tuned on that one. Okay. You can write it if you're really interested in that. Just write into support@returntoyourtruth.com, and we'll keep you posted. Okay. All right. Where are we? JH. That's that. So that's the advice for you I have there, JH. I hope it helped. Being turned inside out as a way to squeeze out nihilism and other such thoughts like what does it all matter anyway over the last week. That's AE, the initials AE. Let me see here. Let me tune in. Okay, so there was a time, maybe even in this lifetime, where something extremely bad happened and left you so distraught, despondent, you kind of said, F it all, basically. And of course, there's darkness around that, agitating, amplifying, mimicking that experience sort of thing. Clear them, retrieve the soul fragment, and take your time clearing them, and take your time showing this to the teams. Yeah, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. Because there was one time, try transmuting one or two entities. It could be just that. Okay, sort of on the fly. There was one time where I was in that kind of state of F it all. This is going back to 2010, and I remember going off the amalgam, showing it to them, and I saw an entity, cleared it, and I was fine. And yes, it can be that simple. And now that I've, been doing it for so long, and even yourself, you may not necessarily need to go to the amalgam, but it's a good idea to do that, just in case it does turn out to be more than just one or two entities. Check for a portal, clear one or two entities, and track back to source, transmit the source, follow the guidance there. The audio's for free in the members page. And then see how you are. If it doesn't go, or if it resurfaces the following day or in a few hours, then it's more likely a soul fragment retrieval issue. Okay, that you heal, the soul needs healing over. All right, let me see here. I spent Saturday. Okay, so this is MS. I spent Saturday and Sunday in the countryside in my friend's family house. We have discussed a few difficult, painful issues on Saturday, and something had cleared out. This was important as I had to decide to not participate in one business with another friend. Something that I was expecting will be a project for next few years, an important part of my business activity. So it is not happening anymore. Okay. I was feeling like I am falling apart. I still do. I lost my voice on Sunday. I didn't feel sick. It was just voice that got lost. I feel that I am getting better, but it is hard to smile. I felt I hate my life and that there is no alternative to life I have, and it will always be like this, floating into the sadness, senselessness, and hopelessness. And that's from MS. Yeah, pretty much the same advice as AE. Transmute a minimum 2 entities and their source. Check your throat chakra. It could be clogged up. Okay. But if that doesn't improve, then it's more likely a soul fragment issue. So follow the previous advice. Now, we've had plenty of traumas and negative events that were, destroyed us emotionally. They weren't a physical trauma, but destroyed us emotionally, but also our world, what we're all about, any sense of purpose, our highest, dearest values and beliefs and paradigms, so-called truths, just torn to shreds, and you are left absolutely bewildered, despondent, F it all. Look for that kind of soul fragment or past life event, more to the point, and retrieve that soul fragment, that former self, or its non-physical aspects back to your soul, because you're still there, you're still stuck there, experiencing that in whatever bygone era, or even in this lifetime. And don't put up with it. Okay, so same advice really. But another classic case of something really being forced up that's holding you down. All right, number 7, SL. Okay, my guides said, put on a full suit of armor. And that was one day after the new moon meditation. I felt the energy getting a little wonky prior to that, but I've never heard or felt the imperative nature of it before, quite like that. This past Monday, I did not know about the X-class CME, but felt it. Mostly yesterday with similar but minimally compared to the last X-class that put me in the hospital for 3 days with stroke-like symptoms. I felt slight pain, running briefly on both sides of my head, but lower around the temples as opposed to the top of my head, like I did during the last X-class CME. This past Monday, my neighbour came and sat beside me on a bench near a lake on our common property. We both were laughing our asses off so hard we both had tears. It felt so good just to let go and laugh. Thank you, Jim. I have felt so much better after our Zoom call. Okay, fantastic. Well, laughing hard enough can really raise your frequency, and sometimes that can be enough. So I'm really happy to hear that. Just with the stroke-like symptoms and being in hospital, okay, make sure you follow the previous advice I gave to, I suspect, the lady in Holland. You may want to consider magnetic clay bath. It's easy to do once you follow the instructions and do it once. You might want to do what you need to do, basically, to get rid of the spike proteins and graphene oxide. I mean, there's other stuff as well, really. A lot of movement, once again, as much as you can. All right, Eminem. A relationship I invested 7 years into went down in flames. Really sorry to hear that. That's horrible. I caught them cheating on me for the second time. Now I am moving cross-country mid-November to be with family and friends. Understandable. The very next day, I made a very palpable high-energy connection with a new friend in divine right timing to help me get through this upheaval. Plus, the money to move was provided Tuesday. Just like that. Wow. Okay. That's fantastic. Clearly that relationship was meant to end and you were meant to not be there. There's another grid point you likely need to be at. I suspect that particular partner that you were with 7 years may have been sent to you to shut down your light or sort of divert you into a bit of a fruitless kind of direction. And that as soon as that dark being was taken out and you said no, this other person shows up. And I'm not saying that they are not true high energy divine person with this new friend. But just keeping it in the back of your mind how things go for you over the next 2 to 3 months with this new person, okay? If things, after like a 1 month or so honeymoon period, and sometimes it can be 3 or 4 months honeymoon period, see how your life goes, and if it does start going seriously downhill, and that friend, this so-called divine high energy connection is around this whole time, you may want to reconsider that friendship. I've been there, done that. Okay, so I hope that helped Eminem. Okay, last 3. I was totally offline the entire weekend of October 2nd and 3rd, sleeping and resting. That's smart. I had bursts of heat throughout the whole body, coughing, sneezing, constantly releasing gas, sinuses issues, and my head felt like it was being pushed outward from the inside. Okay, go to your guides or the amalgam at a minimum and just be a little more involved and active to transmute things that are passing out of you and through you. Okay? It could be just amorphous negative energies, black plasma, entities, whatever. Okay? But all that sounds like detox of a non-physical nature because you were offline for a full 2 days sleeping and resting, and your body was able to release stuff. So keep it up with the energy work, in other words. Okay, and transmute stuff. See yourself holographically, transmute stuff. So your physical body doesn't have to go through such a degree of physical detox. All right, so that's, hope that helped. J.A. The next is A.L., initials A.L. I had an acute pain in my left eye in the middle of the night last night, and since then some left ear ache and headaches coming and going on that side of my head. These were unusual symptoms. Thanks if you can shed light. Thanks for all the great info and support and action, A.L. Thank you, A.L. All right, so that's either symptoms of vaccine shedding and graphene oxide, okay, spike protein, or it's a non-physical release of something, in which case follow the same advice that I just gave to J.A., the previous person. And don't let up with the energy work. Do some brief holographic visualization, but from a neutral place, and see what's there, and turn it into white light. Watch it disappear, or move it out, pull it out, and transmute it into white light, whatever works for you. But if it's physical, if it's from the vaccine shedding, which I doubt, otherwise you would have had this problem for quite a while, but it could be. Magnetic clay bath, exercise. Apparently, salts help. It's a homeopathic thing. What's it called? Bioplasma. A combination of all 12 salts. Highlands. Many local health food shops have them. Supplement stores by Highlands. That seems to help. Other than that, do the usual things that you do for detox. Basically, you have to amp up your detox, whatever that you've been doing or know of, to clear the spike protein and nanites, basically. And when you do the holographic visualization to clear stuff, have a neutral mind, okay? Have a very neutral mind. A humble, neutral sort of mind. Okay. JH, last one here, folks. I want to preface this by saying I have not been sick in years and stopped going to routine doctor visits due to refusing all vaccines, etc. I felt maybe funky, all day Sunday with pain, burning in stomach, where it connects to the small intestines. Very uncomfortable and painful. Thought I would have to go to the ER and get scoped for ulcer or worse. Did Reiki and healing prayers. Good on you. The dark is supposedly losing power. How did this happen? How did they get this much power to get through and affect us? Okay, well, again, things are complicated by the fact that there's a lot of physical attacks from namely DARPA, Chimera-controlled DARPA at this point, negative military to a degree, CIA to a degree, but the real culprit is DARPA these days, and the so-called SES. And, before then it was mostly non-physical. Now it's less non-physical, more physical, sort of complicated things. I would go to the Amalgam. They're really good auric technicians. Again, they'll encourage you to have a go and take your time, sit back and take your time and see, okay, what's causing all of this, What's really causing all of this? An accumulation of spike proteins and graphene oxide can cause something like this. Something that you're predisposed to at the physical level may finally give way. So, if you're commonly around people, let alone crowds of people, that's the likely thing. So again, salt salts, clay bath. I mean, there's quite a few things you can do and take. There's this super duper C60 that I've been planning on trying out. That's a good thing. Vitamin D is important because it kills the spikes of the spike protein. But I would start off with energetics first because that's something you can do pretty much right away and take your time with it. You can take a good look, be methodical, show the teams what you're feeling. And because many times there's entities that amplify physical discomfort, they agitate it so that it's, impossible to ignore, let's just say. That happens. So look for an entity that may be doing that. Of course, stomach and intestines. Okay. I wouldn't rule out a soul fragment retrieval where, gut infections were common. I mean, gut infections are common now, and never mind in whatever bygone era. From malnourishment, it could be that as well. That could be at the bottom of it, especially if you're otherwise relatively healthy and take powerful supplements and do your jogging and swimming and keeping away from vaccine shedders. If that's the case, then it's more than likely an internal present of past life issue where your gut and stomach got wrecked in some way, speared, a sword put through it, okay, or opened up, and that's come up. And there's always non-physical infections around such wounds on your non-physical bodies. So check that out as well if all the stuff I mentioned before doesn't seem to make a difference. Okay? All right. That's some great stuff. Thank you, everybody. Well done for sending all those in. I hope you got a lot out of it. And I'm quite sure that all of the rest of you got some good bit of training there, okay, on how to handle things, especially these days. Let me get into some interesting kind of intel. Okay, we're down to 13 minutes, so hopefully the live call will hold. Either way, we will all be on the recording. I'm going to take a very short musical break, and then I'll get into all those... finish off with, those rather interesting bullet points, to say the least. What's going to happen on the physical surface. Even though, that's not necessarily our forte. Our forte is the non-physical surface of the non-physical planes, all right, that has such a huge influence and impact on what happens on the physical plane. Yeah, funny how that happens, eh? So I'll be right back after this very short musical break. What's happening with China and Russia and the nuclear scare event? What's that really going to involve and look like? When's it going to happen? What's really going on in China? 10 days of darkness. What's that actually going to consist of? Why does the White House welcome the communications shutdown for as much as 10 days? And I've got some cool, interesting stuff to finish off straight from Q the Storm Rider, who's been certainly shot up to one of the best intel source providers as far as all the action on the physical 3D plane is concerned. And stay tuned for that, folks. I'll be right back here. This is Ground Crew Command Radio. You're listening to The Unknown Light Warrior. Okay, that's enough of that. This is Ground Crew Command Radio. You're listening to the Unknown Light Warrior. Now, back when I started Ground Crew Command Radio, back in 2017, right up until 2019, where I had to start doing it less and less, there's a reason why I would leave all the phenomenology and geopolitical, action last, is because we're energy workers, okay? Even if you think you're not, we're energy workers. We're here to control the energies, to control the destiny of humanity and Gaia. And what happens on the physical plane isn't always after effect or after the fact kind of thing in terms of what we do. And I'm going to get more into that shortly. But what we see happening on the physical plane does give us a good gauge on how successful we are as energy workers, starseeds, spiritualists, energy masters, warriors and goddesses. And obviously we have been successful because we're still alive. And half the planet has been wiped clean. Okay. But it is nice to know, of course, it's good to have some idea of what's coming down the pike, because that creates more certainty, okay? More certainty creates a certain kind of confidence and comfort, I guess, and stability. So let's get into it. All right, so the Cabal is planning a massive false flag sometime in October to force the US into open war with Russia and thus prevent the midterms. Okay, and that's why we're one of probably the only mass meditation group that's treating this as a campaign between now and the 8th and the midterms, because it freaking is. And that's that. It's a longer process, not just a one-off mass meditation and then go for a walk. This is treated like an operation, put it that way. So what this false flag will look like, what kind of false flag. So let me start off with, some cool stuff from Q the Storm Rider. China-Russian cables, meaning, and when it says cables, that's an old spy term for what the word is, what's going through the wires and the wiretapping and what's being heard through the wiretapping and so forth, and the communications. It says China-Russian cables. So between the Russians and Chinese, they're saying no US elections. Okay, they don't see it happening, at least on this timeline. All right, that's always the caveat. As EU, NATO, UN, Davos group, Khazarian mafia push for full war with Russia, with Russian help, to facilitate a major false flag attack event to bring in US military into open war with Russia. This could help halt US elections. All right. And first of all, it's wise not to react with, the White Hats have got it, the divine, the light is in charge, blah, blah, blah. And the reason why I say that is because you're the freaking light. Okay, what are you here for? All right. Do not rest on your laurels, okay, because we're part of the light that supposedly has it. Really keep that in mind, because darkness really does manipulate, okay? It manipulates as how it engineers disasters, both personally and collectively. So, operate with that mindset. Now, they're going to, it's not that they haven't tried already. They have, and they're going to try again, especially between now and the midterms, all right? Because as far as they're concerned, those midterms must not happen at all costs. They really are there. So they're trying their hardest for a minimum 9/11 level event. All right, minimum. Now, initially I thought, yeah, they're trying that, and you know, blame it on MAGA supporters, but clearly this time they're going to blame it on Russia. All right, nothing new there. All right, well, what does this mean to us? What does this mean to you? It means consolidate your mastery and your control over the energies where things like that just don't happen. The timeline where that just simply did not happen. Think of the opposite of that. Have you ever had one of those days where everything, or weeks, where everything that could go wrong did go wrong? Okay. That was simply because there was a heavier concentration of anomaly and or black plasma and or negative entities around you and within you at that time. Okay. And look at the impact that it had. And, you know, where everything could go wrong, did go wrong. And that's how massive and altering and pivotal clearing the energies is. So that we create a situation, inevitably, where everything that could go right does go right. You know, within the chaotic context of planetary liberation warfare. Okay, keep that in mind. War is chaotic by nature. So again, it all comes down to that. You know, again, I'll speak to more about that. So they're gonna go for that nuclear bomb, probably a cheapo, dirty bomb in New York. They've tried that already. They're going to try again. You know, many of you have come across Southern community, New York government community sort of videos about what to do in case of a radiation or something like that. And this is weeks ago now. Okay, so they're really trying for a dirty bomb in New York to kill a lot more than 3,000 people, which was the casualty rate for 9/11, I believe. So, and they're going to blame Russia, all right? And therefore declare their version of martial law kind of thing, and which gives them extended powers, which means they can go after anyone and arrest anyone that they believe is guilty of treason and insurrection and sedition or connections with or supporting Russia. You know, that's what they're going for, and they're going to go for that like nobody's business this month. Okay, this month. Again, you know, another ding, 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 blinding flash of the obvious. Make sure you participate in every 144K mass meditation and clean house. Because we're the light. We're the source. Source is us. Try to remember that. I know the conditioned adult mind really struggles with that, but stick with me here, okay? All right, so that's what, you know, that false flag is likely to look like or attempt to look like. And they're going to try until we finish them off. And that timeline is approaching if we can lift the planet up closely enough, fast enough. Okay? Yeah, it's work. Okay? That's that. It's called planetary liberation. This is what it's like to liberate a whole planet. All right. All right. Will the cabal actually arrest Trump? What will that look like? Why would the White Hats allow that? Okay. So again, just to give you the info from Q the Storm Rider, the deep state, meaning cabal, agenda for October in the US is to finally charge Trump with free-fall crimes. I don't know what free-fall means, but anyway, charged Trump with crimes and hope to put him on house arrest and stop the rallies he's been hosting. Bear with me with the spelling errors and bad grammar that anything related to Q is infamous for. These changes will connect to treason against a sitting current US president, supposedly Joe Biden, for over January 6th. And current statements Trump has made at rallies on election fraud and for help funding election turnovers through Save America PAC. Don't be discouraged by this news. If you've been following closely the past few years, you should understand by now Trump is not alone, but placed by high-level clearance military commanders and White Hat's Intel 8 alliance. All this is setting a stage for D-class and opening doors to military intervention. Okay, which is true. But most of us understand and know that it's in terms of liberating the liberator of this planet, which is the United States, all right, that the United States has to be cleared, liberated first. As far as that's concerned, that's going to be the whole focal point of October and November, all right? So, and because of all of that, November, the midterms, the huge eclipse on the midterms, coincidentally, around about that period, it's all going to go down, as they say, as we've been saying. And, all right, Trump is, shut down, out of the picture. Can't walk out of Mar-a-Lago or wherever the house arrest will be. Can't say anything, do anything, and just out of the picture. And then weeks later, everything just collapses and goes to crap. All right. Wouldn't that make his hands look clean? Wouldn't that make him look pretty damn innocent and completely out of the picture because he was under house arrest? This was happened while at a time when he was shut down and couldn't do anything and didn't do anything. Wouldn't that make him look good, innocent, when everything completely collapses? And he's been out of the picture for however many weeks. It's another classic optics move, or need, is a better way to put it. If he's completely out of the picture and therefore and can't do anything and therefore is harmless, when it all goes down, including the period just before and just after, obviously it's going to make him look, well, it couldn't have been him. He wasn't him. He was shut down. He was under house arrest. House arrest means every move you make is watched and so forth, that kind of thing. So if it does happen and the White Hats allow that, that'll be the reason. Okay. It'll even imply that it happened because he was completely removed and shut down and completely out of the picture, not yielding any influence anymore. All right. So critical optics thing. All right. Keep that in mind. That's why I'm not too worried if it does happen. What really happened in China? Which side is the military on over there? Okay. So, again, from Q the Storm Rider, quote, the arrest of Z by the Cabal corporate news was a countermeasure, which was meaning a false flag as a news event to try and hide the arrest of CCP officials that were planning a coup, all right, against the Z. And it says in brackets, I had previously stated in Wires, Z was safe and in protection. It's now clear the military brigade that entered Beijing was there in defense of Xi and surrounded him for protection, and several CCP members were arrested and executed. The attempted military coup was staged by Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Vatican, BlackRock, Davos Group, etc., in hopes that the military coup over Xi would stop the backing of full Russian alliance and the annexation of Ukraine. The second reason for the attempted coup was to take over BRICS monetary reserve system that half of the world currency has already moved to. All right, and obviously the cabal really wouldn't be liking that, because if most of the world monetary system, currencies, reserves, and the whole shebang is moving over, which it clearly is, to something that they don't control, then they're nothing without that. Without control over the financial system, the cabal is nothing. You know, you can just pick them off like rabbits. No big deal. So it's good to see that the White Hat factions and the worldwide military alliance is really onto it over there in China. You know, we'll have a soft spot for China as well. And, you know, it's hard to say how much of the military, but quite possibly at least half of the Chinese military is clearly controlled by positives, because otherwise there wouldn't be enough muscle, and no one would dare send a whole military brigade to Beijing to protect Xi. So they're progressing there clearly. Bad guys are clearly being removed bit by bit. And again, if we hold our end of the bargain by doing the energy work and clearing all the non-physical garbage, then non-physical darkness manipulation is reduced and continues to be reduced. The energies are less dense, which means the frequencies goes up, which means everything that could go right did go right and does go right, that kind of thing, okay? You know, a methodical game of persistence, all right? And that's what it means as an operative, as a 144K member. That's what it's all about. So that's what's happening over there in China. Okay. And they are in the process of taking out dumps there as well. Of course, a lot of secrets were given out by a significant portion of the CCP that defected and gave direct intel on whatever they have underground there, directed to the US Navy. Okay. I did mention that in the last previous show. All right, find out what the 10 days of darkness will actually consist of. So 107 recently shed some further light about this recently. You know, he did say that the 10 days of darkness is a communication blackout. All right, okay, meaning not so much power blackout. All right, you know, there will not be any internet or any communications. So you won't be going in. This is quoting 107. So you won't be going anywhere. You will be martial law. You won't be going to the ATM or the gas station. No internet. Nothing will work. The EBS announcement will be on. All right. You may very well have a Cuban Missile Crisis type of event going on at the systems, you know, meaning the enemy's computers will be diverted to the good guys to take over and stop. All right, so to take over of whatever systems they have remaining in control, because obviously CIA and DARPA would still be controlling some stuff. Remember, Space Force is not about outer space, it is about cyberspace. The power will be transferred and it will be very clear who is in charge. All the questions everyone has will be answered, so just relax, take a deep breath, pray, and take care of each other. All right? So a lot of people, most certainly the normies, I know that's not kind or insulting, but anyway, let's face it, most of us have had enough of them, especially our own family members. So they've earned it. Anyway, the normies won't be having much to do at all except watch the EBS, the broadcast through that. And a lot of us have some idea of what kind of stuff the White Hats will be broadcasting through there, basically revealing everything, a lot of what's been happening. Okay, so it could last as many as 10 days. Okay, well, I prefer 3 or 4 days where you can go to the gas station and go to the shops. Let's shoot for that timeline. Alrighty. Okay, why do the White Hats welcome the cabal's communication shutdown? Okay, let's read from Q the Storm Rider. More importantly, United States Space Force military intelligence operations also want the same communication shutdowns to happen. It's all for military purposes, from securing phone data from the cabal operatives to installing a full grid control of the internet and social media to banking systems, and all would lead to martial law 11.3. So basically, you know how when you install something in your computer or you need to make a significant change on your computer, you just downloaded something important and your computer is asking you to reboot, okay, in order to finish things, whatever process your computer is doing, an update, whatever. Same kind of deal, okay. And that's why, hence the communication shutdowns, because if the cabal wasn't going to do it, the White Hats were going to do it anyway, because I need to take everything, all control from all forms of communication systems, infrastructure, IT infrastructure, quantum supercomputers, the whole shebang, take it all away from the cabal. It needs quite the reboot, as you can probably imagine. All right. Okay. All right. What should your only real concern be? Because the news is completely worthless and meaningless compared to this. All right. Your only real concern should be, and must be, your ability to work with energy. As far as everyone listening to my voice right now, that's your only concern. Okay. That's how you, and let's face it, the only way you can have the biggest on how things go on this planet. All right. So you've been sort of dropping off the old energy work. Get back into it. Okay. Ask your higher self. Ask your iron presence. How can I get better at that? All right. Really, really important, because that's where it's at for us. We're not in positions of power here on the physical. Only on the non-physical, we're in positions of power. Loads of it too, but only if you're pretty decent at working with energy. You don't have to be brilliant at it. You don't have to be a master. You don't have to be a professional. Nothing like that. You just got to bring out those dormant abilities through a request to your higher self, through a demand, and call for assistance from your guides. Okay. Screw everything else, whatever. What are you going to do? Scream from the scream from the hills, or top of the hills, or in the middle of Times Square about what's really happening? Not going to happen. All right. Now, to finish things off, I know this show has gone way over, but boy, it was not just important, but You got a lot out of it. That's what matters. I'm just going to read out some good stuff about what 107 said recently. It sort of spelled things out fairly well, because again, between now and November 11th, okay, we've got the eclipse and the midterms supposedly on the 8th. The 11th will be one Mother Light of a Doorway event. It will still be sort of happening. Between now and then, we want our expectations sort of laid. You know, it helps to see what's coming before us for more certainty. All right. So he says, there is something coming, and it is not years away. It is almost here. And this is from a few days ago, okay? When the full stop happens, even 10 days of stopping all communications, it does not necessarily include power, though there might be in certain areas the grid is off for some reason. They have got to make some changes on the cell phone kind of stuff that they need to do to carry on. So some places power might be temporarily off, but generally no. Okay, it's just communications, all communications. Some of the bad guys who think they are safe communicating with each other with their satellite phones, well, Space Force isn't about outer space, it's about digital space. We can turn their phones off whenever we want. Something is coming, exclamation mark. We are in a life and death battle, exclamation mark. If I am correct and we don't have elections, you know, midterm elections are set for November 8th, then what kind of angst or turmoil might be present? All right. And what kind of angst or turmoil would that result in? All right. Now that's really going to wake everyone up. Is the 25th Amendment going to be in play? When would that get played? Is it sometime in October? If the election does not take place, you might be under some sort of military environment, okay, aka martial law, for a period of time. Is that a week or 2 or a month? We still have to have an election. We do have a military that has an obligation to ensure and protect honest elections and get us to a point in time where the elections can take place. All right, so he's alluding there that, yeah, the martial law is going to happen, and full military control, which will allow for a likely postponed midterms. Again, whether it's postponed for a week or a month, as always, depends on the timeline that we can put the planet on. And clearly, everything is riding on what timeline we can put the planet on. We get to freedom relatively unscathed, okay? Or we get to the finish line pretty messy and dirty, both literally and metaphorically, okay? So keep on shifting those timelines. As Q said a long time ago, half of what's going on, in some respects, most of what's going on is timeline wars. And I would add energy wars, because energy decides direction. Energy decides effectiveness and levels of success of physical action. It's always after the fact, whatever happens on the physical. And that's the way it goes. That's the way it is. So now that's really crystal clear in everyone's mind and heart. I will see you, and I expect you all to see you on the non-physical planes to take charge of those very energies that will decide the fate of humanity. Be the light. Don't just talk it. See you there, folks. Let's make it happen. This is Ground Crew Command Radio. You've been listening to The Unknown Light Warrior.